Welcome back to MSI 2023, the final series of the play-in stage. We're dropping in hard. Game 2 draft PSG down 0-1. They selected the blue side and have banned away the Rakan, the Blanc, followed by Aphelios and
Do you know what's going to happen, Mark?
Ezreal, yeah.
Do you know what's going to happen? They're going to first pick something OP, and then Golden Guardians is going to pick Lucianami.
Well, I mean, it feels like they are setting it up, and Golden Guardians in one of their series played one of these red side, leave everything up games. They weren't the one who did it, but they did get to benefit from it. It is a very viable strategy on red side to say, yep, screw the OPs. Okay, they do give one respect. They do give the Kennen OP respect ban over, but the other two, targeting Wako instead, who had a great lane phase, but a little disappointing in the mid-to-late game, stepping forward too far a few times.
I do like the Ahri ban there, denying that to Gory. He's had such significant impact.
Feels good when the teams do what the casters say.
Now, the question is,
You're validated.
what do you want to see from Junjia? Because the Kha'Zix is not a champion that's associated with
I knew it was going to be the Lucian first pick. Like, they want to make sure that Wako is on something that has agency and something he is comfortable on.
I hope Golden Guardians did the research, because this is actually the most played champion for Wako on the year. Yes, obviously Golden Guardians do play a very nice Lucianami themselves. I hope they did not think that something else would be left up. They would grab that instead. But it is going to be a Lucianami they'll have to play into. We'll see what they have prepared.
That means the Vi gets to come out, and the Vi Annie. Okay, so Golden Guardians.
Those are the other OPs.
Congratulations, you got your Lucian. We are now going to pick the other S-tier champions in the meta. And what a duo they've now set up for themselves. Of course, Ahri works so very well with Vi because of how easy it is in terms of mobility. The difference in this combo is that it's Annie that has the setup instead of the Vi. So while Vi lands the ultimate into then the Ahri follow-up, Annie can flash ult into then the Vi follow-up, which basically means that this combo can do just as much destruction in the mid-jungle.
And it does play to what Golden Guardians love to do on red side, which is flex picks. We did see Uhi playing the Annie. Gory can obviously grab it as well, so it does give them the option as this draft progresses to decide if they want to put it into the Lucianami and try and go maybe a kill lane or something like that.
Ooh, I don't like that.
No me gusta.
This is much happier for me, because when we take a look at Junjia as a player, Sejuani is his second most played champion this year, 7 games, 7 wins. He's traditionally a bit more of a facilitator and engage type of jungler. So that carry Kha'Zix is not something that we associate with how PSG have won throughout the entire year. And to answer the question for the bottom lane, it's going to be that Zeri. So it could be Zeri Annie, it could be Zeri plus support, depending on how the rest of the draft pans out.
My expectations are that Zeri Lulu will be the priority for the bot lane. I know that during the regular season, the whole world handshook Lucianami with Zeri Lulu. Normally it's on that 1-2 item spike that Lucian's able to have the advantage. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the what words am I looking
Lulu.
for? The Lulu banned away. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it does. One of the power of the flex picks is the enemy team can ban out those other options, but you can, of course, then just slam the Annie back down to the bot lane. I was oohing the Tristana, sorry to distract you, because that is a very common Golden Guardians champion, but they've seen enough out of Yubao to know that they do not want to give that one over. It's a very impressive double marksman composition that we've seen out of PSG quite a few times. They just go heavy pushing lanes. And Junjia on the Sejuani is more about stabilizing them, getting vision out, which is what he loves to do so much, which also speaks to why Kha'Zix is not exactly in his wheelhouse, where you're often more looking to isolate targets, catch them face checking you, as opposed to being grouped up, working front to back through vision.
And of course that Lulu was banned away, so another ding 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 there. So what does Huhi want to pull out of the bag? K'Sante, the next ban here from Guardians.
These bans are weird from Golden Guardians, because if I'm Golden Guardians, I would have first picked the K'Sante blind top. Like, it's proven to be a very effective answer for Golden Guardians, but I guess they're arguing we see the support, we can just lock that in now, and then we'll save counter pick for FLICKR, I guess.
It is something that they've done more in the postseason. We talked about before, Golden Guardians during the regular season. Ooh.
Why did they ban Sylas? Because I'm pretty annoyed now, because I was going to say, oh, you know, you go for the K'Sante if you're Golden Guardians, and then you probably respond with something like the Sylas plus the Sejuani makes such a strong
especially with the
combo.
Tristana ban. Oftentimes, if you're playing Tristana, you don't want to play it into a Sylas, but instead, both of them are already banned. Very weird. Now you get the Poppy first pick, so your little theory...
I'm so confused.
Dude, you were like, I love it when I get to predict things, because it makes me feel validated. You get the Lulu right, and instantly everything else goes wrong.
I'm so confused, because the thing about the Sylas is it also suggests that PSG are concerned about the Annie actually going into the support position, which by locking in the top lane now, which is why I also think K'Sante could have made a lot of sense, is it still leaves that room for interpretation. Where is the Annie going? Golden Guardians can make the decision at the last moment.
Yeah, clearly what Golden Guardians has done here is said, hey, our mid-jungle 2v2 is very important, so as we see potential lock-in here of the Olaf.
Oh, right.
Golden Guardians are giving last pick to their mid laner. That does speak to the Cassante, though. Like, maybe you leave that up so you can continue to flex that between mid and top, because FLICKR obviously can play the Cassante as well, but instead going for a simpler game plan here, slam the Poppy down, and get ready to give Gory a good 2v2 mid lane matchup with whatever they take, which happened to be the Talia.
Well, the Olaf was pivoted away from. I just got no games played on that one throughout the year, but second most is the Gnar. And now we figure out, where does this Annie go? Will it be in the bottom lane? Probably leaning that way for now. But I mean, in terms of the drops, I mean, Vedi, not playing out, especially in phase 2 the way we're anticipating. Do you like how it was rounded with the Talia and the Gnar from PSG?
I mean, I think I would have preferred Olaf. Lissandra, okay. So typically when you're drafting a Sejuani, you want melee champions that can better enable her, right? Her passive better works with things like Silas, with things like Olaf. And I think that in terms of having a strong top side, that would have made a lot of sense. PSG, by going for the Talia and the Gnar in the second half, heavily pivoted their draft and say, we're not top side, we're a bot side focused team. We want to make sure that we can play through this Lucian army, we can get them ahead, and a lot of that is going to work off the back of Yubao getting prio in mid, leveraging that wall to be able to roam down to bot side and threaten dives. I'm not a massive fan of this Lissandra answer because I think that in terms of early prio, you really are going to struggle. In terms of utility and in terms of the matchup, sure, it's great. You have a lot of crowd control, but all of your damage then kind of falls on the responsibility of Stixay, which in the late game could be problematic, especially when you have things like a Talia who can really mitigate some of these high mobility AD.
Yeah, it does speak to the fact that we're talking about PSG on blue side liking a lot of high prio lanes. They do have a lot of pushing lanes here, and they should be able to get out of them and go bot lane. And we have seen that Stixay has fallen behind a couple times in these series, obviously in the Elk one, but just last game, again, Wako having a great time against him in lane phase. Feels like a bit of an all-in on that kind of gameplay where you want to make plays happen around the bot side of the map. Talia's going to go down there, but I do like how much pushing power PSG has, and it's on, this time around, Golden Guardians to kind of weather some of these early laning struggles.
I think from the Golden Guardians perspective, maybe hopeful that PSG will play the way they have throughout the majority of the year. Haven't been necessarily the most dominant of early game teams, not just reliable and structured. I think for Junjie, though, I'm significantly happier to see him on that Sejuani because with those pushing lanes, with the Sejuani, and with, frankly, all the combinations, has a lot of tools available to him. And Junjie is one of the players in our Mercedes-Benz featured matchup going into River on that Vi. So the question is now, with the roles somewhat reversed, game 1, very slow out the gate, very tempered, but it was PSG, the ones that were being pushed back slowly, slowly, slowly. Now they've got the sort of priority in lanes. That means they could look for those opportunities.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the junglers for both these teams are the engine for a lot of the plays. Invade here from Golden Guardians, shoving Yubao off his point, wanting to get a ward down early on. See potentially where Junjie is starting. No, just threatening.
Wait, where did his ward go?
Didn't end up dropping one. Just threatened the ward.
Did he not?
I don't think so.
Doesn't look like it's about sending
Well, it's just I
message
see it
there.
on cooldown, so unless I'm...
Maybe initially went sweeper and swapped off somehow or something? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, somehow Stixay.
Okay.
Oh, is in bot
Thank you,
lane. Bot lane. There it is. We're
Observer.
blind.
okay,
Thank you,
We're
Observer.
blind.
You
You
know
know
what?
what?
I swear there's a ward
It's the
somewhere. Why
icon on
can't I
top of it.
see
You can't see the ward in the minimap.
Okay.
It's not our fault.
It's not our fault.
Stixay will be the first person to get chunked just a little. William Wako now being pushed backwards. I want to see what sort of lane dominance or control this Lucian army can generate. We have seen the influence, and look, Wako already starting to step forward. He is going to use that ebb and flow, and a lot of aggressive trading just at level 1.
Yeah, obviously Golden Guardians willing to walk up and trade. Who he loves taking the E level 1 with the auto attack range of Annie, absorb some of those trades, poke back, but the sustain from Woody looking pretty good right now.
We need to see if either of them go for that next engage. Level 2 is just moments away, and right now middle lane currently being pushed towards Yubao. Literally, Observer's baiting us a little bit. Step forward there from Wako. Stun connects, and nothing further following from it. So in terms of the early laning phases now, let's keep an eye then on what PSG can do. Because like we said, they've got the ability to shove in, have a lot of power to play with. And Junjie is going to look to sort of bounce back on that game 1 performance. Didn't really show up on the Kazakhs. Be a lot more comfortable here. Sejuani, and we can watch all 3 lanes at once. Thank you.
Yeah, talk about some of the history for both these junglers. We've heard a lot about Junjia being the sub-EDG jungler and brought in to kind of help embody that play style. But for River, actually, he is a 3-time PCS champion with PSG, made multiple international tournaments, done quite well with them. And Gory, as recently as last summer, was the mid laner for PSG, first in the regular season before having a bit of a collapse in the postseason. So it's probably a bit of a bitter pill to swallow for some PSG fans watching to know ex-players of yours going back to the LCS and helping carry this Golden Guardians team.
Also impressive that for the organization, 5 new players can be still able to pick up that title. Not something you see a whole lot of. You know, a complete rebuild, all 5 members, and still being able to pick up the win. Right now, they're on that front foot. You can see top lane and middle lane pushed forward. So Scuttle Crab will be secured here by Junjia. Where is River? He's making his way down towards the bottom. River had a very good gank timing in game number 1, having a little bit of a surprise onto the bottom lane. Wako and Woody. Now, looking for an opportunity, obviously with Ubar backing, there won't be anything to play with there. So yeah, another defensive start for the first few minutes. Playing out somewhat as I was expecting.
It's a very, what's the word? Diplomatic way of saying slow.
Boring is what you wanted to say. It's okay, guys. We're all honest here. Let's just say.
That's not the right word. The thing that I think is very interesting is that because we've been so... we've had so much fun with like the chaos and the high kill games throughout the past few days. It has baited me into forgetting the fact that in BO5s, they are traditionally slower.
Well,
it is something the PSG tends
here's
to
what I
slow
will
down.
say, that for both of these teams, like when you look at some of the teams in the bracket stage, right? T1, a very dominant early game team. Mad Lions, a very aggressive early game team. Even Cloud9, like JDG, there are all these teams that are more than happy to fight you in the early game. And I'd like to see them be able to like show me something a little bit more, be proactive in the early game. Admittedly though, in the way that they've drafted, right now, it is hard for them to find anything like level 1, level 2, level 3. When these level 6s come through, I do want to see PSG threatening dives bot. They've drafted in a way that is very much around their bot side of the map, so I want to see them build advantages in that area of the map.
Yeah, Junjia spotted on a ward coming down here as a wave comes in for Golden Guardians. Bit of an awkward spot. You can see River making his way down from the top jungle to the bot to potentially help protect Golden Guardians here. I was going to follow up on that point. Same case for Golden Guardians here, very level 6 oriented composition for the most part, with Lissandra, Annie, and Vi becoming a lot stronger at 6. And it's also worth noting that PSG is going to be the team with Prio in a lot of these situations, and they are, of the 2 teams, the slower pace, not always the most bloodthirsty, and instead going for control. But Golden Guardians actually starting off the Dragon.
Yeah, we saw the River stepping forward. A couple of wards were placed just behind the Dragon Pit, with the bottom lane somewhat under control, thanks to Stix and Heavy. This looks to be a little bit of a risky one, down to 2,000 hit points. Woody going to be backed up by Junjia. We've got a 4v4 setup. Teleports available for both top laners and level 6. Inside the pit is secured by River. Now Gory follows on, connects with the Ring of Frost, is shoved backwards, flash over the wall from Ubar, but Dragon secured by Golden Guardians, and they're able to fend off the defense.
So I love the proactivity here from Golden Guardians. They knew that they had the push in bot. They also saw that Gory got level 6 first, so they wanted to take advantage of that. They immediately start the Dragon off. They were able to find this pocket of vision that PSG didn't have, which meant that they could start the objective, and while it was a good attempt from Junjia to steal that one away, unfortunately for PSG, they could not secure the objective, which means the first Dragon goes over to Golden Guardians.
First Dragon, and loss of 2 flashes there for PSG. Junjia going into the pit, right over the wall with his Q, just looking for the snipe away, but kind of baiting Yubao to step forward at the same time. And instead of Gory going onto Junjia, going over the wall, he actually sees Yubao on the ward, and that's where he's going to throw his claw, and the rest of Golden Guardians are going to focus him down as well.
The positioning from Gory was fantastic there as well. Mainly because he was in a prime position to flank as River looking for something bot.
That's a good stun there onto Woody. River looks for the denting blows, manages to find the hit, flash forward from Stixay, gets the kill. Moka's trying to get a 1 reply. There isn't enough just yet, and River's able to escape with his life.
Bit of a funky look on the spectator there, but does get the flash Q, connect follow-up after Huhi forced the flash out, the heal as well, keeping him topped up to make sure Wako could not find the return kill.
This bottom lane is not going the way PSG would have wanted. Not only is Stix and Huhi getting the shove, they got the Dragon. And
now they're looking for a dive top.
Oh, very okay. Now what can they do here? Opposite to what we were anticipating.
But it's Poppy.
There we go. Keeper's verdict. Yeah. Instantly booting away PSG, and FLICKR has absorbed the pressure, Betty.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very difficult to dive a Poppy aside from the ultimate, you also have the steadfast presence, and you've got the shield from the buckler. Like, it's a difficult champion to threaten a dive with, really, especially if you haven't gotten any initial chip damage down. But FLICKR only utilizing the ultimate immediately converts it into what was a potential, at worst, 2v1 situation, and is able to walk away safely. So PSG tried to make the cross map happen, and they really get nothing off the back of it.
Didn't cost too many resources invested, though. Junji just kind of ending up on the top side after what happened in the bot side of the map. You know, Ajin losing his ultimate, not a big deal. Very happy to just kind of use that one up, and it's going to be off cooldown basically by the time you hit Mega Gnar form again in lane phase pretty often.
Yeah, you see he uses the trading tool very regularly. A little bit more perplexing, the fact that PSG's first sort of like committed play was towards that top lane, not towards Evolution Army. And with Golden Guardians having a pretty strong start to the second game, they're now on the next neutral. Already jumped into the Rift Herald. Good damage there onto FLICKR. And it does look like who he's trying to at least body block Ubao. FLICKR now stepping towards the pit. Keeper's Verdict not available. Junji does have level 6. Herald's going low. Will PSG arrive in time? I don't think so just yet. Charging up the Q secured. It is stolen away by Junji. In the follow-up fight, that's the cease and desist. Slam the board down, pulled backwards, and Gory will get the kill. The eye was picked up though.
Nice steal there by Junji, though. I was laughing at that ward. It's in such a tricky position. I'm pretty sure Golden Guardians thought that if there was anything that would have seen the Herald's health, the pink ward in the back of the pit would have seen it. Not the case, though. So Junji walks up for a very casual smite steal there, but does cost his life.
I mean, River had no smite. He started that objective.
He panicked. He's like,
hey, he was trying to boot the Sejuani out of the pit. But you can see, it's on cooldown right now. So this is a very easy steal for the Sejuani. Junji just walks up. And the problem for Golden Guardians as well is that they committed their support and AD carry to this play, which means that there was a completely uncontested tower in the bot lane. PSG secure the Herald, and they get 2 plates to their bot lane as well. So this was a massive gold swing in favor of what was a small mistake from Golden Guardians.
It's definitely going to be something that PSG will be happy about, especially because of the sort of power of their composition once they hit the level 6, hit those 1 items. They are down a dragon, but with that Rift Herald as well being in Junji's inventory, see which lane he wants to prioritize, see which lane he wants to try to unlock. And of course with those plates secured for Waka, there's Lucian as well, getting closer and closer to that mythic.
I'm sure he's going to be going bot lane with these, accelerate that Lucian, get him to his mythic. I'm sure, of course, Woody will actually share the gold as well. One of the times that as a support you're very happy to get accelerated towards your mandate to really turn that build online. The only question is, can they get Prio back in this bot lane? Because after that kill down there, Golden Guardians have usually been in a little bit more control of the lane.
Really solid play overall from the bot lane of Golden Guardians. I'm really impressed with how Gory's playing this matchup. He always seems to maintain the push. And Ubao feels like that he's always under pressure. You see Gory moving first once again, making his way towards bot. This is a decently sized wave. I wonder if Golden Guardians is considering a dive. Yeah, I think it's a little too difficult. You can see Ubao and Junji ass. The dragon is obviously the play. I wasn't looking in the top right of my screen. The Golden Guardians very on the ball here. Good vision control, but PSG want to contest.
Just a couple steps ahead for now, but Junji's managed to make it into the pit. Ubao will be late to this one, and 6A's trying to force that Sejuani back. Dragon ends up being secured without any contest, and Aja continues to apply that pressure until FLICKR. She's generated a 20 CS lead into the Nav versus Poppy matchup, but I think despite the fact that Golden Guardians have been able to sort of make those first moves with First Blood, First Dragon, they were in the Herald pit first. PSG have been able to pick up the CS, the plates, and they're minorly ahead in gold. And Krish will use that heroic charge. Chunks Aja backwards, steps forward, flashes out just before the denial from FLICKR, and Aja escapes with his life.
Didn't quite have enough damage or mana, I guess.
I was wondering, man.
Yeah, because usually you see the wall stun alt knock-up combo to keep him locked in place for an extended period of time. That also guarantees the Q proc damage if you do that full combo. Looks like FLICKR ran out of mana, otherwise would have had that solo kill on Mininar.
But still, gets himself a play, equalizes the gold, so mitigates that deficit that he was in. The Herald, though, being dropped on the bot side of the map as River pathed up top, and they spotted him out on the ward, which means that Wako should get another influx of gold, and he will. So, at long last, this bot lane getting a little bit more gold funneled into it. You can see the disparity between the 280 carries not that dramatic, as Stixxay did pick up that earlier kill.
No, definitely. And I think for Stixxay and Golden Guardians is one of the primary damage dealers. Late in the game, going to be very, very happy with that. I always personally want to see a little bit more out of Lucian Nami lanes in terms of what they can do in terms of potential, but good play from River, good play from Golden Guardians has meant they've contained it.
Yeah, of course you want to see the solo kills out of the Lucian Nami lane, but honestly, getting a Goldie, getting to your mythics faster, and then when you end up in the mid lane, I think is when you see true Lucian Nami excellence. How you use your Gale Force dash-in combos with your culling to chunk people out, fight for prio in the mid lane. I think that's when the true dominance of the combo can come in. It's not just potential solo kills in the dual lane phase.
Well, I think the ideal setup for a Lucian is that because you run the first strike, you want to be trading as often as possible in lane, which means that you get that slight gold advantage. Because you trade so aggressively, you can get yourself a couple plates, and so you hit those spikes sooner. Maybe you're at 2 items before your opposition is. Maybe you're even at that Gale Force before your opposition is, and you leverage that initial item spike first in order to win out on trades. And many people know that fighting a Lucian, especially around level 11 when he's got more points in it, he's maxed out his Q, a couple points in his E. That's really where this Lucian is very scary in that mid game.
Marco may be called to step up to the plate. We are 2 minutes away from the next dragon, playing on the Infernal Rift, so it's GG once again with this first move. I think Gory has been able to sort of back up the skirmishes just a little quicker than Ubao, fighting over this red buff. While that's happening,
they're going bot instead.
Top lane. Target is going to be Wako. Flash and Cleanse available to him. He's already flashed and blown up underneath the tower. Weaver's wall brings in Ubao. Gory now under some threat from Junjia. 3 versus 3 in the bottom lane. They get the kill and they get out clean.
A little bit of a misdirection play out of Golden Guardians there. Look like they're posturing around red buff and take a blast cone to find the isolated Wako for another kill. They're not done yet though.
Now the fight coming in. Teleport there from FLICKR underneath the tower. Ring of Frost thrown down and Junjia now trying to survive. The target is Ubao. Junjia finds himself on the tower's doing so much work. Golden Guardians may have bitten off more than they can chew. FLICKR arrives to the party, but it's already over. 3 kills in favor of PSG.
Oh, Golden Guardians rush that play. They find themselves under turret before Licorice has even found himself through the teleport. Lends a very disjointed turret dive. Not the end of the world. Gold lead still relatively close, but some more back in the pockets of PSG.
Quite the ambitious dive, I would say. After getting that initial pick, Golden Guardians thought that they could fight for more, but so much crowd control comes out from the side of Golden Guardians. This is where things start off. Huhi pops the heal early to try and help close the gap with the additional movement speed, and the kill is clean at the start, but this is where things start to go wrong.
Yeah, 6A is already half HP. You use some ultimates here, so it's going to be a hard dive, but they think they can get the 5v3. The problem is, you're flashing and starting this before Licorice has even showed up. The Nami wave gets out and interrupts any follow-up damage from coming through. There's all these stopwatches available, so Ubao is going to live for a long period of time. The turret juggling is not super clean either. Just a bit of a disaster play there, given the fact that, of course, they can follow up with this TP.
And I mean, in contrast to what we've seen from Golden Guardians over the last few days, that's a little surprising to me. I think they've had some pretty clean dives. They've looked very controlled and coordinated. The fact they went in before Licorice's TP even finished was absolutely detrimental.
It reminds me of like in Valorant when you never want to like fight 1v4, right? You want to take isolated duels.
Yes.
That dive, that's exactly what it looked like, right? PSG could just focus one target at a time. And Junjia, he feels very strong right now, picking up the Warmogs. You can see how much damage he's tanking.
Wow, look at how many members of Guardians are focusing him down. They do get the kill. And with 2 seconds before the dragon is up, they just 5v1 him basically.
Perhaps too much confidence there from Junjia. I was talking about how he's got to feel really strong right now. Face checks into multiple members of Golden Guardians and they find a quick pick.
Gives them the 3rd dragon as well. Big overstep there by Junjia. It's the right kind of idea where you want to absorb some damage with the Warmog's rush and then heal up, especially with the more range composition that he has, not having dive buddies. We saw this actually out of him just yesterday, I believe it was, doing a very similar thing with a range-focused composition, rush the Warmogs, and then kind of just frontline face check things and heal up on the tail end. But Golden Guardians had too much damage and too much CC available to let him actually get that reset.
And by contrast from game 1, Golden Guardians accelerating their like proactive plays, aggressive moves. 3 dragons by 16 minutes. They've already got themselves that tower. They're also applying pressure. Sorry, correction, they lost the tower. In fact, they're trying to secure the tower in the bottom lane. I think for PSG, they're starting to feel like they're losing a grip on the game. It's still very, very close, of course, but it's been all Golden Guardians. And this time around, Ubao is going to initiate. And as I say that, cast a curse of note, they managed to find the pick.
Great pick. River going to be forced out of his bot side as Licorice secures the top tower. But Ubao threw out the W, and then the ultimate actually knocked the Lissandra into it, which acted as a stun to then guarantee that kill. Great play there from the BSG bot side as they now threaten this mid-tier 1.
No teleport for Licorice, who's caught in the top lane. He's pushing that inner turret. While that's happening, bottom lane is being sieged just a little by PSG. And starts to back away. So good pick there from the Taliyah. Starting to now open up this map and make it a little bit more risky, especially when you have that Taliyah to combo in.
And this game is like thematically similar to the draft where everything was going against our expectations of what would be happening. Here I'm like, oh yeah, PSG's gonna have all this prio and they're gonna be the ones, you know, getting all this dragon stacking early on, playing around the Lucian Nami. Not the case. Golden Guardians bot lane ends up winning. Now they're stacking dragons. And it feels like PSG has gotten the better hand on the Rift Heralds and the actual gold swings though.
I mean, in my opinion, PSG have been finding advantages off of the mistakes of Golden Guardians. Outside of that, Golden Guardians have been the primary driving force in this game. They were the ones that set up, they've been first on every single objective outside of the second Herald. They have been the ones that, the first Herald was stolen from them because they didn't have the smite. They conceded a bunch of kills bot because they were the ones initiating the dive. I feel like overall, this has been Golden Guardians' game, and PSG have just been trying to find windows where Golden Guardians have overstepped.
Golden Guardians' game to win or to lose, basically. And with 2 minutes 50 until the next dragon, that's the soul as well. PSG have to contest, so we need to keep an eye on the vision. Are they aware? Are they setting up for it? And I think Betty, I also want to see how they handle the team fight. I don't know if you're going to potentially dive a level 13 Poppy, but I think for Golden Guardians, can they secure that soul? That will be a gigantic pass spike this early in the game.
The only other thing I wanted to mention is Golden Guardians steal away this red buff. Full damage for Gory. We talked about how in the draft I was concerned about Stixay being the only damage dealer as a TP committed top.
All right, 2 versus 1 here. Keeper's verdict out. The culling's being used there, and River's forced to flash away. He does survive, and the kill was secured by Golden Guardians in the top lane. Still 2 minutes to go for the Dragons, so a little early. And fight on 2 fronts, Golden Guardians come out on top.
Yeah, finding a pick-off in the downtime between neutral objectives. I like seeing the aggressive play kept up, but it did cost him, like you said, the teleport. And in the meantime, River lost his flash in the mid lane, will not be back available, either of those long cooldowns, for when the Dragon needs it.
Yeah.
But when you think about the lane setup now for Golden Guardians, FLICKR had a window where you can actually go and catch the wave bot. Instead, he's choosing to commit mid. Gory was able to push in this wave top, which gives Golden Guardians a lot of control over the map, but they're not investing any vision towards the top side of the map. Baron is spawning in about 3 seconds. That pick, they haven't really gotten much off the back of it. Right now, they're just kind of dancing around this mid lane.
Remember, this next dragon is for the soul. With no teleport there for Gory, he's grouped up. Junya goes over the wall with that Arctic Assault, turns his attention to Gory. Glacial Path not followed, and the Ultra Shock Laser chips away just a little. 5 versus 4 for now. Archer's pushing top lane, teleport's available to him as well.
Oh, River gets spotted out on his recall, gets interrupted again. He was trying to recall before Junjia went over the wall there. Then he had a funny angle to flank from the Raptor pit in case PSG stepped too far forward. Ends up disengaging that situation though.
And look at the top lane right now. Gory's currently defending. No teleport for him thanks to that pick that you're seeing on your screen. So if PSG make a move towards this dragon, it could be a little problematic.
Sunder or Poppy is kind of gross. Even before Gory got there, you saw the fact that Yubao had been dropped to about 20% HP. If anything, all Gory did was stop the escape from coming in, and Licorice basically had found a solo kill at that point.
I do think sometimes Licorice overcommits the damage. I think in this situation, he could have just gone full tank. I think it would have been fine, but you can definitely see how much damage he's dishing if he has the opportunity to find those isolated 1v1s. Junjia looking for a pick. River
may be able to Ripple, that was fantastic. Survives for now.
Wait a minute.
Oh, buddy.
All the way under the tower. But it's River that's in trouble. Keeper's verdict thrown out in 10 seconds until the dragon. There's no jungler. There's no smite. River just gets picked.
River felt himself too much after breaking the ankles on the Nami bubble, decides to commit onto Wako out of nowhere. The 2000 range engage gets pulled under the turret. And now, after Junjia, the previous dragon had given his life up and given it for free, it's Golden Guardian's turn.
A lot of damage there.
Gory.
Wako, no glacial prison available. Gory's under threat, forced to flash over the wall, was chased by 2 members of PSG. They're now turning into the Dragon Pit, rather, trying to burn this one down. I don't think Guardians want to contest it. Numbers disadvantage and a health disadvantage.
Very touch and go there. Golden Guardians feeling like they're trying to mitigate what was already a big mistake with the fact that River dropped.
This is a game defined by who can punish the other team's decisions. Right now, Junjia walks right into 2 members of Golden Guardians. Gory's waiting behind that mid turret. No minions, though, so can't really work with that. Archie's still got that teleport. He's gone bottom lane. Golden Guardians looking for some sort of opportunity. Flash! Tippers is huge! 3 members locked in place. but that's all of a sudden the kill. Wako is taken down off the stopwatch ends. Ubal's running for his life as Licorice is trying to find that flank. A hop, a skip, a jump away from RG. He's taken down with the Vault Breaker. All of a sudden, Golden Guardians unleashed, pushing for the inner turret. A charge up from River. Will he pull the trigger defensively? Golden Guardians find the picks.
Golden Guardians skipping steps in the plays. They give up the dragon, but during that time, River is just charging back on respawn from base. Gory hovering around the turret. You saw Aja assume that this play had dissolved and actually leaked out to the bot lane, had to TP back in to defend that turret, but it was too late.
This is a challenging game to predict what will happen next. I was not expecting a mid-dive from Golden Guardians. We go all the way back to River's initial death. He sidesteps so much, but in this situation he's saying, oh no, I'm gonna die, but wait, I see Stixay, maybe we can turn this into a play, and then Wako brings him underneath the tower to his demise. And it's at this point PSG is saying we have the numbers advantage. But now, resets haven't really come through yet for PSG. They see Wako very low health underneath this tower, and with no wave, they just see the dash, as you rightly called, Mark. Who he flashes in, gets the stun. Great stopwatch from Wako. Actually could have been the difference maker, but this time around, Licorice tanks the tower initially into Who he tanking the tower, which means that the tower management makes it much easier for Golden Guardians to set up a clean dive.
Was also able to finish the turret off when people were coming out of stasis, find all those kills. Very difficult situation there. As we see, we're coming right back into another fight.
All right, this time around, Gory's been able to avoid the engage. Tidal Wave by some time. A lot of damage, though, onto Golden Guardians. They have got a reply. 1-for-1. Huhi for Ubao. Licorice is now trying to come from the side. He teleports into the top lane, finds the heroic charge. Bubble will interrupt the Poppy ultimate. So Golden Guardians, they do get a kill back. But like I said, I just don't know what to anticipate. Licorice unable to find the kill there onto Wako now. Is he overcommitted? Baron seems to be the focus for the rest of the squad, and he's going to rejoin Guardians inside the pits.
Bit of a distraction here, stopping PSG from going to this Baron. They are doing it relatively slowly, though. Not the highest damage Baron.
Very slow.
My brain still can't comprehend if this is good or bad.
It's bad.
No ultimate available. Culling is up. But Wako is so far away, so all of a sudden Golden Guardians disengage, they get outside the pit. Like, you cannot anticipate what these teams are going to do, and it is not playing out the way we would
I'm surprised that they even
see.
started a fight. Like, we didn't get the context as to how that fight even kicked off. All we saw was Junjia throwing out the ultimate onto Gory, who then responded with a stopwatch, and then Wako was able to get away with a sliver of health. Licorice diving underneath the towers, a Baron being started. An interesting series of events between the two teams, but we've entered a mid-game where it's a lot more chaotic. Both teams don't really have firm control over the map. We're in a very neutral state. Let's have a look back at how this one started off.
Yeah, just some vision control, trying to snipe him blind from the brush. Gory, nice reaction time on the stopwatch, and then wanting to engage on top of Ubao. Hold up, like we just said.
Yeah, come right out of the replay, and somehow Licorice has been caught. Glacial Prison this time around is flashed away from. Dodge, oh, that might have been the Glacial Path, in fact. The tower is still standing, by the way, as now 5 members of PSG are pushing forward. Didn't quite see how Licorice was caught out, but I will make an educated guess based on the last 15 minutes. He was standing in the river bush, and somebody just jumped over the wall. I think that's a safe bet right now.
Someone jumped over the wall or threw a skill shot out, a bubble, a flick back, who knows. Anyways, point is, Licorice died, but the turret's still alive currently for Golden Guardians, but a lot of mid control right now for PSG. They'll probably be able to drop this one before it respawns and then set up for the second dragon in a minute time now, trying to stop Soul Point pro Golden Guardians.
And I think crucially, Mark, this is kind of a swing in control, because I think the first 15, 20-ish minutes of gameplay was kind of Golden Guardians dictated.
Oh, yeah.
They're making the first steps,
sure.
them either getting the advantage or making a mistake. Now all of a sudden, PSG are on
It's the
front
Junjia
foot.
show, I'll tell you that
There
right
you go.
now. He
Yeah.
sees an opportunity, he's throwing that ultimate out, and he is not afraid to do so. PSG have definitely woken up here in the mid-game, and it's definitely a game that could still go either way. I don't see a clear favorite right now. Of course, Golden Guardians, with the dragon stacking, have a prime win condition, and this is going to be the objective that they are first to once again. Gory pushing out the bot wave. Can go for a quick base if he wants to maybe spend a little bit more gold, has the TP available.
Have to see if he goes for that. The eyes, like you said, on Junjia, though, they have a pretty crazy chain CC combination if it lands with the Nami bubble with the flick back, being able to isolate one target, and only Licorice is a tanky, really. If River gets caught out, he can get exploded 100-0 easily.
No flash for Licorice, but the ult is up. River goes over the wall, Uses the blast cone back. Licorice has gotten rid of Junjia, trying to focus down the dragon. It's taking time. Junjia may arrive to be able to look for the steal. 4,000 hit points. Culling is being fired. Licorice using the ability to prevent Junjia in the pit, and the soul is secured. Golden Guardians get it, but it's at the cost of Gory's life. Now in the follow-up fight, that's a dash forward from River, trying to find a target. Not find the autos yet. Cease and desist is down. Look at the AoE. Golden Guardians are destroying PSG. It's full retreat. Nubar's next to fall. River looking for yet another. And Wako, the last man standing, trying to pursue his way to safety. Quadra kill for Stixay.
It was a dicey dragon setup, but nice coordination. The poppy by Licorice going over the wall, making sure there was no steal attempt available, and then the chase down sequence with the soul on their side, bringing the extra damage to find that ace.
Licorice's keeper verdict was fantastic. The step up present, buying enough time and delaying the Baron until Gory spawns to make sure he gets the buff as well. That's beautiful to see, especially because he's also got that teleport available.
Fantastic play once again from Golden Guardians. And they do everything in their power to stop Junjia from getting into the pit. They do what they can, and you can see here, they use the Keeper's Verdict initially to get him away from the fight, and then the flash over from Licorice to just buy as much time as possible. The Steadfast Presence prevents Junjia from dashing over the wall, doesn't have the flash available. And then Gory sacrificing his life to make sure the objective can be secured. And then Stixay unleashes off the back of a great engage from River.
And of course, when you see the team fight play out with Stixay unthreatened, unchallenged, you mentioned it could be a concern for him to get the damage down. It is not proving so, especially in that fight, just chasing behind his front line.
Very true.
So easy to execute for Stixay. He's 7-1-4, but it was really, I think, Gory buying all of that time in the River. And Licorice getting rid of Junjia, that's allowed Golden Guardians to now generate this 5,000 gold lead, and they start the Red Bull Baron power play.
And I gotta say, while it has not been the cleanest game of all time, Golden Guardians are showing a level of aggression that you don't always see out of North American teams, where they sometimes play a little bit slower pace. They're afraid to flip objectives, but that is not the case for GG.
He engaged once more. Junjia throws it out, knocked back onto River, and he survives. Stixay's trying to use that burst and chunking down. Will be engaged on. The Relentless pursuit forward. Culling's going out. Stixay almost down, but the engage from Gory. He's saved his bot laner. Junjia's the next target. Licorice starts to channel the Poppy Copter and will not fire it yet. Wako almost got Stixay, but was taken down in return.
A great re-engage coming out from Huhi and Gory. They're able to buy enough time for their AD carry to get away. Stixay should be able to heal up a little bit. River, he wanted to go and get those Raptors after losing so much HP to get a bit of HP back for himself. The TP comes in to buy a little bit more time as the siege continues. The Licorice getting closer and closer to securing that tier 3.
All of a sudden, Archer's the next target. Two members of Golden Guardians peel away from the bottom lane. Mid inhibitor turret is secured. Stixay still alive, still looking for that life steal on the minions. And Golden Guardians have got another 45 seconds on Baron empowered minions. Licorice starts to charge the Verdict, waiting to fire. And the Verdict is good. 2 members sent packing. This will unlock yet another inhibitor turret. And Golden Guardians will be happy with that, and they back away.
30 seconds left on the Baron buff, but Wako respawning, and the number of ultimates that were down for Golden Guardians made it so that they could not continue to press forward looking for that inhibitor. Like you said, 2 inhibitor turrets drop, but no extra map pressure for when the Baron and Elder start respawning. Going to be relatively synced up buffs there.
Well, I will say, as we get closer to what feels like a second game 1 for Golden Guardians, massive shout out to Gory. I feel like that in both games he has been playing incredibly well. His lane control, mitigating what Yubao can do on the map, his impact in the team fights, the fact that he's been so coordinated with River consistently, especially when we just look back at that very last skirmish that we saw, as now Golden Guardians have found another pick on the Arjun.
2 members collapsing on him. Looks like Arjun will be taken out before any support can come forward. I mean, overextended, not a lot of vision. Golden Guardians had all the wards in that western quadrant, so they find yet another kill. This game has looked a lot better from Golden Guardians in terms of the early plays, the movements around the map, and a few small execution issues.
A couple of hiccups here and there.
A few hiccups, that's a good word. Waka's trying to get damage down. Cease and desist comes out. Licorice once again using that steadfast presence flawlessly. Stixay untouched. Rattling away, pushing underneath the inhibitor turret. They get themselves more kills. Only Woody stays alive. And 5 members of Golden Guardians find the picks. They're inside the base and they're looking for the Nexus.
4 members dead from PSG. Only Woody left to keep PSG alive, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Golden Guardians looking to go 2-0 up in the series.
Fantastic turnaround here. Golden Guardians fountain diving for fun as well. 21 kills. The Infernal Soul, the towers, as well as the Nexus. Golden Guardians are 1 win away from advancing to the MSI bracket stage. And it has been a interesting game to watch. Also a very tense, slower paced game. Ultimately, Golden Guardians have had better team fights. They've been able to play the late game better. I think in this game, they also played the early game a little stronger. And all the pressure is now on PSG. They tried the Kazakhs, didn't work. They went back to Sejuani, didn't have the opportunities. Now they have side selection 1 more for potentially the last game of MSI.
I mean, my biggest concern for PSG coming into this series is that they are not a very proactive team in the early game.
Yep.
Often they're a team that will look to cross-map, and I think that scaling and team fighting is their best bet, but they drafted a composition that very much relied on them playing through the bot side of the map and being able to find a successful snowball. But frankly, they got lucky on that first Herald. If that smite was available for River, they wouldn't have been able to get that Herald, and that early game would have gone a lot worse than it ended up going. So I think the Golden Guardians, their proactivity, we're continuing to see it. Their early objective setup is good. I think that they're getting a little overconfident at times. We're seeing a lot of dives that I was not expecting, but they're still making it work in the late game team fight. So Golden Guardians continue to dominate, and I think we're going to have to see a dramatic change from PSG if they want to stand a chance in this series.
Yeah, I think it was also good draft prep as well, never giving Wako his 2 best champions. He banned out the Aphelios right away, make sure he doesn't get any of that. He finally got his Lucian, but they banned out the Ezreal after that, gave them a little bit of problems. I think they understand that he is their primary win condition, and as long as you stop him from kind of getting off the ground, the rest of PSG doesn't have the most obvious way to play the late game out.
I think River in particular as well has had a significant impact early on, helping set up Golden Guardians to get to 2-0 in the series. We're going to head to the analyst desk to break down game number 2.
Thank you, quick shot. Golden Guardians are 1 game away from looking into the next stage at MSI here 2023. And guys, I want to talk about the draft again. We say draft gap when we see something like this, and I think this one applies here.
Especially. I mean, this is my point as well, putting it in there. So I thought that when I saw these champions, in my head, I just go like, okay, but this just becomes kind of unplayable as soon as you reach level 6, right? You look at the bot lane in isolation. You have Lucian Nami going up against a Sarian and Annie. Level 6, they can actually just straight up kill you. Going into the mid lane as well, there's a 2v2 between a Vi and a Lissandra against a Talia and a Sejuani. That's just also a win. And then up towards the top side, Blind Pig Puppy, never really exposed. It's just a now into it. Everything Golden Guardians wanted, they got here. And PSG, they look lost, not just in draft, but in map, in the map too when they're playing this.
Yeah, just generally, it's a very difficult situation to be in for PSG because not only, as you say, at the level 6, you start losing basically every lane. You also didn't get an advantage through the bottom lane. And when you get to team fights, there's just so much zone control from the side of Golden Guardians. You have to deal with Annie Tibbers, you have to deal with Gory going in with a Frozen Tomb, you have to deal with Vi diving onto your backline as well. And it's just, you don't have enough tools and enough follow-up engage to actually isolate one player on the enemy team. And even if you do that, the disengage is too strong from Golden Guardians for you to manage to do anything.
So they didn't have enough tools, and on top of that, I feel like GD has been really clever and smart in the way they approach the early game, especially when it comes to the jungle matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz here, because GB, the tracking on Junjia was exceptional.
Yeah, and I think as well, just the decision-making between the 2 junglers, right? Junjia essentially here is pathing up to a Na versus Poppy, where the Na gets slow push. You're never going to be able to dive that while River was actually going down towards its bot side. Even here, you talk about the tracking, it's already there. While the pink ward is in the tri-push, so Junjia thinks he's not seen, he's already been spotted. So the bot lane of Golden Guardians are so aware to when they can commit plays. As soon as they see him again, they can just start up the Drake.
And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Huhi for this. We saw it in game 1 as well. He was stepping into the enemy blue side, making sure there was vision down there before a Drake would spawn. You know that PSG are going to want to fight around Drakes. It's what they did domestically. It's what they've done so far at MSI. So if you can make sure you have vision on Junjia as he looks for steals like this, you put him in a precarious spot and he ends up not hitting the smite because it's so difficult for him to get in the pit.
And this situation specifically could have been so much worse. Even when it started up, you saw it from the side of Gory. He had that level advantage, level 6 before the Talia. They decide to turn on anyone as a unit. They die as well as them getting the Drake. But you can see it here as well in the matchup so far. There is a bit of a difference coming through. It's not entirely decided by the junglers, but it's decided about how their junglers set their laners up. And River has just done a better job at that in the matchup so far in the series.
And we were talking about the bot laner support on the side of Golden Guardians, and as every second counts, thanks to the reliable Cisco network, who he finds a 3-man stun with his flash tibbers, catching Wako and winning the team fight.
Yeah, we call this a wacko moment. He likes to dash forward sometimes on the Lucian, and he does exactly that. He's like, I can trade, I can get some damage down, but immediately Huhi is there to react, and we start to see this layering of CC, this layering of zone control that works so well for the Golden Guardians. If you look at it, it looks like a bit of an over-eager dive, but because they have so many people that can go in one by one, it comes out well for them.
This is just another day in the Golden Guardians office, right? It could have been the bot dive we saw at first. That was a bit over-eager, probably, when Junjie picked up 3 kills there and make the game way closer than it should have been. But in the end, there was no real point in the game where PSG ever actually had a chance. It was just Golden Guardians dominated. You were waiting for objectives. Only one time River got caught. That delayed the game by 5 minutes, but this game could have been over by 24 minutes.
You mentioned Junjie, and I feel like coming into this tournament, we had higher expectations coming on the side of this jungler, and we had some questionable positioning around objective setups, especially Medic, and usually costing the objective to the team.
I think it just seems sometimes like he believes he is much stronger than he is. And he'll step up and he's like, okay, I'm here. You know, you guys can try and put some damage down onto me, but I'm Sejuani, so it doesn't really matter. And he just dies. And it happens so often. It happened yesterday as well when he was playing, game 1, so when he was playing the Kazakhs as well, around the Baron. Often he seems to think he needs to be going into the fog of war by himself, and the rest of his team aren't always there to support him.
You know, it's just weird, right? We've literally been watching PSG yesterday, and the words you would use to describe them yesterday would be team cohesion, great team fighting, flexible in draft, and it's just not hitting the mark today, even from Junjie's position. He was the reason they were so good against Loud. He was specifically taking over the jungle matchup. Croc never got a leg on the Rift, and this time around, it's just been the opposite.
And on the side of the Golden Guardians, one game away from looking in the next stage, and in Countdown, we've talked about the bot lane especially, Huhi, Stixxay, the history they have together, how they had an amazing run last time they were at MSI, and here again, they're popping off, not only in this series, but the entire tournament as well.
Yeah, I think Stixxay and Huhi have looked really good when they're able to neutralize the early laning phase. Obviously, against BLG and against Elk, they really struggled to do that.
Tricky.
But here we actually see Junjie often pathing up towards the top side. We noticed it earlier in that play. And if Wako is not supported, you can never really get him into a position to actually challenge Stixxay and Huhi.
So looking at potentially the last game of this series here, I want to ask you guys about the win conditions for both teams. What do we want to see on the side of PSG first?
Yeah, you know, PSG, I think, of course, you can talk about the draft adaptations. Even if they make those draft adaptations, I need to see something different on the Rift. The way that they play the game right now, it's just not there right now. You can see it as well in the early game. Yeah. That's the biggest issue for them. You need to make something happen on that early game. I understand why it was difficult in this specific game, but even game 1, when they had so many lanes with priority, nothing really came off it. And you cannot let that happen. PSG was known for their slow play, but even then, they need to do it faster if they want to make it to the bracket stage.
They'll have the blue side here again, so another approach in drafting also. Maybe.
I mean, they can change up the draft. I think I just bounce off Gorbul's point here and say, path towards bot lane. Okay. Just gank Wako level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6. No one else on this team has really shown the ability to solo carry the way that Wako has done at this tournament. So just give him attention and see if you can shut down Stixxay and Huhi, because they have been the Achilles heel of the Golden Guardians.
And on the side of the Golden Guardians, though, what do we want to keep on seeing?
I mean, do what they do.
They're
winning.
Yeah.
Why change it?
I think the thing we noticed earlier with the tracking of Junjie in the early game, that has been absolutely solid. And if they continue to do that, you really shut down a lot of what PSG want to do in the early game. And it shuts down the win conditions we've given for them as well. So, you know, playing both sides of the coin here.
Amazing. We'll see. Can Golden Guardians complete the clean sweep and advance to the bracket stage, or does PSG Talon have a reverse sweep in their tank? We'll be back right after the game 3. Oh my god.
Good stun there onto Woody. River looks for the denting blows, manages to find the hit. Flash forward from Stixxay, gets the kill. Walker's trying to get a 1 rub.
Listen here, listen.
Can you dive ball? Can you dive ball? Yeah. Dive.
Okay.
Dive.
Okay.
Dark and TV, Dark and TV. No flash.
We got him.
Back.
Easy.
Keep going. Talia. Whoa.
Go.
No flash, Talia. Yeah, I should agree.
Go.
Golden Guardians are 1 win away from advancing to the MSI bracket stage.